Okay, welcome back, intrepid and indefatigable seekers of wisdom. This chapter is called A New Christology, and it's probably one of the most important chapters in the book. It's about 15 pages long, from 430 to about 445, and it's really important because she's calling for a new Christology in Christianity, and at the same time, she's not officially, not blatantly, not directly, but obviously this is an offering of sorts in that direction. The New Testament view and understanding of Christ is not premised on God as Trinity. It was only when the early fathers grappled with the mystery of Christ that Trinity emerged as necessary for a true understanding of Christ. So what is most remarkable about the early development of the understanding of Christ is how the Trinity almost of itself emerged as an essential requirement for this understanding. Obviously, it is not Obviously, it is not Christ that reveals the Trinity, rather it is the Trinity that reveals Christ. If the Trinity was not strategic for this understanding, the Trinity can be taken, and has been, as merely a way to deify the man Jesus. This is why, without an experiential recognition of the Trinity in one's own life, it remains little more than a theological construct, a so-called mystery, imagined and spoken of as three distinct beings, more especially two anthropomorphic beings. And this is true not only in the Protestant and Catholic churches, but unfortunately in the Orthodox Church as well. The stated premise of this book has been the impossibility of having a true understanding of Christ without first having a true grasp and understanding of the Trinity. Thus, one must first recognize the Trinity in his own spiritual life before he can ever come upon the place of Christ in his life. This goes back all the way back to age 15, her conversion experience. So read her autobiography to understand why she says that. To think one can know Christ first and then know God, Trinity, is not how it works or can ever work. Those who think God, Trinity, and Christ mean the same thing miss them both and know neither God nor Christ. It is only in the light of the Trinity one is poised for the revelation of Christ as the true nature of his and everyone's eternal oneness with and in the Trinity. That's basically a direct quote from what she was revealed to her as if from a voice above her head on the pillow when she was 15. So one problem with the present-day Christology is its purely theological, intellectual approach that attempts to account for the Trinity, but which, in truth, can only be recognized by man's distinct, different, triune revelations and experiences of God. Prior to this personal encounter with God, no one really cares about his eternal life with God anyway, and why should he? It is only after he encounters God he then questions his eternal life with God, at which point he is posed for the revelation of Christ as his eternal life with and in the Trinity. This is why there can be no true understanding of Christ without first being able to identify man's triune experiences of God. As it stands, however, given the proverbial party line rendition of the Trinity, no one could ever recognize the real Trinity, nor, consequently, the real Christ. It is well to remember that neither Jesus, John, Paul, or their disciples understood Christ in the light of the Trinity. In Judaism, the Spirit, and or Logos, was God's created medium in creation, and never regarded as God. This fit Paul's view that Christ was the Spirit made visible, whereas for John, it was the Logos that became flesh, incarnated. It seems even after John's Gospel appeared, the incarnation was premised solely on the Logos and not on the Trinity. But any Christology based solely on the Logos goes no further than accounting for the material body of the man Jesus and not man's complete human nature. Marginalia, Christ is the fine line between me and not me. What theological terms might better reflect the truth that God is not three beings? In parentheses, how about dimensions? At the bottom, to ask God, quote, "What am I to you?" is different from asking God, quote, "Who am I to you?" God is only interested in the first question. And God is interested in what this body does, probably because it's already his. Back to the text. Pages and pages could be quoted where the view of the Trinity is presented as three individual entities or beings of the same essence, of course. This view or way of speaking of the Trinity, especially Father and Son as individual beings, is so pervasive it makes one wonder if the writer, some authoritative theologian, really thinks the Trinity is in fact three individual entities. Even though we are constantly assured God is not three beings, yet theological language seems incapable of reflecting this truth. This is why man conjures up images of the Trinity as an old man, a younger man, and a dove. Father and Son are consistently spoken of as if they were two discrete individuals, even two embodied beings. As it stands, the proverbial language of the Trinity only abets tritheism. The real Trinity, however, also brings up the true nature of the eternal union or oneness of God and man. That the immanent essence of God is eternally united to the essence of human nature can only be a union of the whole Godhead, Trinity, with man's whole human nature. Thus the Incarnation cannot be only a union of the Logos with the physical body or flesh, but rather an eternal union of everything God is with everything man is, a union of essences or natures. There is no union of parts to parts, no union of man solely with the Logos, as if it were separate from the Spirit's oneness with the soul, and all being in the transcendent. That the union of natures or essences is only in and with the Logos' hypostasis is not even possible. There is no such thing as being united to only one of the Trinity and not the others. Yet the proverbial language for Christ is that only the body or flesh is united to God, Logos. The reason we cannot say Christ is the incarnation of the Trinity, however, is because neither the Spirit nor transcendent have any existential union with matter. With the physical body, that is. God's existential union with matter, or the body, is solely the prerogative of the Logos, not the Spirit or transcendent. That only the body is united to the Logos, however, does not account for the rest of human nature. It is because the term incarnation only applies to the Logos, we have been handed a view of Christ's humanity as just a physical body, flesh, united to God. A wrong view of human nature, however, can only promote a wrong view of Christ. No true understanding of Christ can be based solely on the Logos, but must be premised on the entire Godhead. As the eternal oneness of God and human nature, Christ's place and man's own destiny is centered in the Trinity and not just in the Logos. So one obvious deficit in the proverbial understanding of Christ is the consistent, unrelenting reference to Christ's humanity as no more than a body or flesh. No Christology was ever premised on Christ's human nature as an authentic, whole human being, no different than any other human being. Though we are assured God's humanity was a human soul, psyche in Greek, this admission is a mere formality with no evidence of having any impact on any Christology, theology, doctrine, or understanding of Christ. From the beginning to this day, at least 95% of all references to Christ's humanity are solely to his body or flesh. Even the Eucharist is regarded as solely